Okay, I will solve the question sent by Yusuf. In a way, we revise the normal forms of database. So the question gave a database, and they asked what is the normal form of this database. Is it in the first normal form, or the second normal form, or the third normal form? The first normal form means that this database is unique and atomic, and there is no repeating groups. Let's check first if it is in the first normal form or not. If it is, then we will check the second normal form, then we will check the third normal form. Let's check first if it is in the first normal form. Is it unique or not? Means that all the rows of all the tables are unique. يعني فيهم primary key. For the student table, all the rows are unique because there is no student ID that will repeat for two different students. Same for test ID, there is an ID. So same for the student ID, test ID. These are primary keys. So the primary keys prevent rows, prevent records from being repeated. This is unique. Are they atomic? Let's check. Atomic means the fields cannot split into more than two fields, three fields. For example, we can find a field named first and last name. First and last name can be split into first name and last name. Means that first and last name is not atomic. When you find any field here which is not atomic, means that this table is not in the first normal form. Let's check. Do we have any field which is not atomic? First name is fine, last name is fine, description is a text, yes, but we cannot split the description. Total marks is 1 mark, so there is no field that is not atomic. So all the fields are atomic. We are fine here. Is there any repeating groups? Repeating group means there is a group of fields that are repeated. Like for example, imagine the student table فيها student ID وفيها first name وفيها last name وفيها test name. Of course, one student can pass many tests, so you will find in this table many rows, many records with the same first name. We know first name هو الثاني. This is the first name, the last name, first name, last name, first name, last name are the same with different tests. This is computer science, this is math, this is English for the same student. This is a repeating group. We shouldn't find any repeating group here. ما فماش حتى repeating group. So we are fine with the repeating group. So if we have these three conditions, means that we are at least in the first normal form. Now let's check if we are in the second normal form. عادوا نفكركم أنه الرule for the second normal form, no partial dependency. Means all attributes fully dependent on primary key. هذا شنو معناها no partial dependencies. Let's explain this. Suppose we have a test date in the test table. يعني في التست we have test ID, description, total marks كما عطانا هو, and we will add a test dates. No, sorry, I'm not talking about the test table. I want to talk about the student test. Imagine we have one more attributes here اسمه test date. test date هذايا باش يفسدنا الدنيا. Why? Because the test date depends on what? On the test ID, and it does not depend on the student ID. Here depend and here not dependent. This is a partial dependency. If you find something like this, means that you are not in the second normal form. Do we have anything that is not fully dependent on primary key? Let's check. Last name dependent on the student ID. First name dependent only on the student ID. We are fine with this table. For the test ID, the description of the test dependent on the test ID. The total mark of the test dependent only on the test ID. We are fine here. If we remove this and we check the rest, we find that the mark dependent on the test ID and the student ID. Since we have a combination here of two primary keys, the mark هذا grade متاع student dependent on who is the student and what is the test باش نجمو نعرفو mark. So the mark here dependent on the test and dependent on the student. So here all the attributes, this, all the attributes are fully dependent on the primary key. So that means that we are fine. We are at least in the second normal form. عندنا كان third normal form. بالطبيعة كان لقينا اللي فما one attribute اللي هو عنده partial dependency لهنا كيما date. كان لقينا date. We say that this table is not in the second normal form. That means it is in the first normal form. والانسر متاعنا تكون in the first normal form ونقفوا غادي. لهنا عطانا table in the second normal form على الأقل. We are fine حتى لهنا. Let's go to the third normal form. The rule says يعني علقتها لكم أنا راهو في الكلاس روم. No transitive dependency. ايش معناها transitive dependency؟ معناها استنوني دقيقة. Transitive dependency معناها there is an attribute that depend on another attribute مش the primary key, not primary key, and that other attribute هو اللي depend on the primary key. يعني this is the primary key, this is the attribute 1, this is attribute 2. Attribute 2 is totally and fully dependent on the primary key وأموره هانية. أما attribute 1 is not dependent directly on the primary key, but it depends on the attribute 2 which depends on the primary key. This is the transitive dependency. For example, let me give you something to show the transitive dependency. كان جات موجودة هي مش موجودة هنا، كان جات موجودة مثلا ناخذ student table فيه student ID و first name. لو كان جاي فيه زادة subject حط student table هنا فيه student ID وفيه first name وفيه last name. Imagine we have a subject name and a teacher name. Well, let's put it in the test table here. test table فيه ال ID هذا وفيه description وفيه total marks. If we add subject name and teacher name, the subject name is dependent on the test ID. خاطر test ID هو test متاع one subject معين. نقولوا test متاع computer science مثلا. Subject name computer science. Test is dependent. Test ID will subject name are dependent. A teacher name is not dependent on the ID directly. خاطر teacher name can be Shamsuddin and can be Sana, two computer science teachers. So they are both related to subject name, dependent on the subject name, which is dependent on the test ID. So this is transitive dependency. Let's check here if we have transitive dependency. The first name is directly dependent on the student ID, as well as the last name. The description is directly dependent on the test ID. The total mark directly dependent. The mark is directly dependent on the test ID and student ID. So here there is no transitive dependency. All the attributes are dependent directly on their primary keys. We can say that we are in the third normal form. والانسر متاعنا باش تكون بالطبيعة الكويستشن هو what is the normal form of this table. باش نقول له it is in the third normal form because ونعطيوه الارجيومنتس متاعنا على 3 نقاط. نقول له all tables all fields are unique and atomic and no repeating groups and no partial dependencies and no transitive dependencies. وإلا نجم نقول له because it is in the first normal form and it is in the second normal form and there is no transitive dependency, so that means it is in the third normal form. In general الأحمر هذا يلزمكم تكونوا شاربينه حافظينه تعرفوه بالكدا then you apply it على الكويستشن اللي باش يجيكم. أنا I applied it على التيبل هذايا. بالطبيعة انتم باش يجيكم تيبل آخر، حتى في التيبل الآخر اللي باش يجيكم باش يقول لكم what is the normal form. You will use the same answer هذه وهذه 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 وهذه. Just you will check it in the table if all the rules or criteria are satisfied or not.